Welcome back to our Bible Summary series. Today, we begin the historical books with the book of Joshua, a powerful story of courage, conquest, and God's unshakable faithfulness. Joshua continues where Deuteronomy ends, as Israel stands at the edge of the promised land. This book shows how God fulfills his promises through a leader who walks in obedience and strength. From the crossing of the Jordan to the fall of Jericho, Joshua is filled with unforgettable moments that reveal God's power and Israel's calling. Let's journey through this book together. Background and context. Joshua is the sixth book of the Bible and the first of the historical books. It is named after its central character, Joshua, the successor of Moses. Joshua was a warrior, a faithful servant, and one of only 2 spies who believed God's promise. The book was likely written soon after the events took place and serves multiple purposes: to show the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham, to describe Israel's conquest of Canaan, to demonstrate how obedience leads to blessing. The book is divided into 3 major sections. 1. Entering the land, chapter 1-5. 2. Conquering the land, chapter 6-12. 3. Dividing the land and covenant renewal, chapter 13-24. Joshua is a book about victory, but victory that comes through faith, not military strength. Section 1. God commissions Joshua, Joshua 1. The book opens with God speaking directly to Joshua after Moses' death. God encourages him, "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord, your God, will be with you wherever you go." Joshua commands the people to prepare for the crossing of the Jordan. The tribes respond with unity, declaring their loyalty to Joshua, just as they did to Moses. Section 2. Rahab and the spies, Joshua 2. Joshua sends 2 spies to Jericho. They lodge with Rahab, a woman whose faith sets her apart. She hides them from the king's soldiers and expresses belief in Israel's God. Because of her faith, the spies promise to spare her family during the coming invasion. Rahab becomes a powerful example of redemption. Section 3. Crossing the Jordan, Joshua 3-5. God performs a miracle reminiscent of the Red Sea. As the priests carrying the ark step into the Jordan River, the waters stop flowing, allowing Israel to cross on dry ground. Joshua commands 12 stones to be taken from the river to create a memorial, so future generations will remember God's power. The new generation renews the covenant through circumcision and celebrates the Passover. The manna that sustained them for 40 years ceases, marking a new beginning. Section 4. The fall of Jericho, Joshua 6. Jericho is the first city Israel must conquer, but God's battle plan is unusual. March around the city once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, march 7 times. The priests blow trumpets. The people shout, the walls collapse by God's power, and Israel captures the city. Rahab and her family are saved, fulfilling God's promise. Section 5. Defeat and victory at Ai, Joshua 7-8. After Jericho's victory, Israel suffers a defeat at Ai because one man, Achan, disobeys God by keeping forbidden items. His sin affects the entire nation. After addressing the sin, Joshua leads Israel to victory at Ai, using strategy and obedience. The chapter ends with Joshua writing the law on stones and reading it aloud to the people. Section 6. The Gibeonite Deception, Joshua 9. The Gibeonites trick Israel into making a treaty by pretending to come from a distant land. Israel fails to inquire of the Lord and makes a binding agreement. Though deceived, Israel honors their word, demonstrating integrity even in difficult circumstances. Section 7. The Southern and Northern Campaigns, Joshua 10:12. A coalition of southern kings attacks Gibeon, and Israel comes to their aid. God miraculously intervenes. He throws hailstones from the sky. He causes the sun to stand still, giving Israel more time to fight. The northern kings later unite against Israel, but God gives victory again. These chapters highlight that the land is won by God's power, not human strength. By chapter 12, the major battles are completed, and the land is ready to be divided. Section 8. Dividing the land, Joshua 13:21. This section describes how the land is allotted to the tribes, Judah, Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin, and others. Though administrative in nature, this section demonstrates God's faithfulness. Every tribe receives its inheritance. The Levites, who serve as priests, receive cities instead of land. The chapter concludes with a powerful statement. Not one of all the Lord's good promises to Israel failed. Everyone was fulfilled. Section 9. Altar of Witness, Joshua 22. After receiving their inheritance, the eastern tribes return home and build an altar by the Jordan. The western tribes misunderstand and prepare for war, thinking it is an act of rebellion. But the altar is only a memorial, a witness to their unity. This episode teaches the importance of communication and reconciliation among God's people. Section 10. Joshua's final words, Joshua 23-24. Near the end of his life, Joshua gathers the people for a farewell address. He reminds them of God's victories, the importance of obedience, the dangers of idolatry. In chapter 24, Joshua leads Israel in renewing the covenant. He declares his famous words, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." The book closes with Joshua's death and burial. Israel remains faithful throughout his lifetime and that of the elders who lived after him. Key themes. 1. God's faithfulness. Joshua proves that God keeps his promises. 2. Courage and obedience. Victory comes through trusting God's commands. 3. God fights for his people. Battles are won by God's power, not Israel's strength. 4. Leadership. Joshua models humility, courage, and devotion. 5. Covenant renewal. God calls his people to choose whom they will serve. Important characters. Joshua, faithful leader and servant of God. Rahab, symbol of redemption and faith. Achan, example of hidden sin. The Gibeonites, reminder to seek God's guidance. The tribes of Israel, inheritors of God's promises. Life lessons and application. Joshua teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear, but trust in God. We learn that obedience opens the door to victory. Sin affects more than just the sinner. God always fulfills his promises. Unity among God's people is essential. Real leadership points people to God. Joshua challenges us to live with conviction and to declare, like Joshua, we will serve the Lord. Key verse and closing. Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Thank you for joining this journey through the book of Joshua. This book reminds us that God keeps his promises, leads us with strength, and calls us to live with courage. If this video encouraged you, feel free to like, share, and leave a comment. I love hearing what speaks to your heart. And don't forget to subscribe so you'll be with us in the next episode as we enter the book of Judges. Your engagement truly helps this series grow.